we were door knocking. Like we were literally going into retail stores with different boxes and like walking into the store with a gift box and be like, we have these products, would you like to buy them? I quickly realized like I haven't made any money for this, and it was my ego that was probably saying like, you can still do this, you can still sell products. So,
what do you think the key is, or the secret is, to getting to 100k a month?
so getting to 100k a month is...
Right, man. There we are then.
Jordan, good to see you.
You too, man.
Welcome to Dublin, Ireland.
It's great to be here, man.
It's not raining here, thankfully.
Yeah, I'm glad for that. I'm glad. So, getting straight into it, man. You just hired an MD. That's pretty exciting in the agency.
Yeah. To be honest, it's been a breath of fresh air because you quickly realise how much time goes into managing quite a large team. It's grown into quite a large team, but it's been such a blessing. So in January of this year, we hired a woman called Sharna. She has grown agencies before, which is really exciting. Because that was the one thing that we were looking for, is like someone who is at the stage that we're at now in the journey, but is able to bring us to stage C. I feel like we've got from A to B, now we need to get to C, and it's acknowledging that it probably isn't myself to do that. It probably isn't my business partner to do that. So let's hire someone who's more experienced, has done it before. And yeah, it's just been amazing. Like we feel like we've had to take a few steps backwards because she's realized a few things we've done wrong, and around time tracking, around organization. But all in all, it's been amazing. It really has.
It's really interesting, man. Like it's one of those roles that it kind of feels, as an entrepreneur, it's like the business is so much your baby, and so the MD role is like, it's like that protected, it's the sacred role, you know. It's the one that all of us think that we should maintain forever. It's, I'll hire everyone else around me apart from the MD. And so I'm interested to understand what brought you to making that decision, to being like, okay, maybe I'm not the best person to be the MD, and for the business's sake, we should hire someone else. So how did you get to that point in the first place, to making that decision that you're going to take someone in?
Yeah, great question. So I think for myself and my business partner, Tyg, we kind of had to do a bit of inflection as to like where are our strengths, what are we good at, and like I'm spending a lot of my time building out strategy for some of our larger clients. I'm spending a lot of my time working on our own strategy, our own North Star. Where are we going as a company? And when you realize how much you're working in the business and not on the business, and I know that's a very common thing for all of us, I felt I was getting dragged back into so many things that probably weren't a good use of my time. And the same goes for my business partner. So I think it was just recognizing that and saying, we're the bottleneck in the system. We're actually the ones letting the company down. And just putting the company first as opposed to ourselves first, and saying, how can we best serve this business? And I think my time is better spent building out a sales team, working on the growth of the company, trying to build out new departments and bring in more talent. Like that's really the areas that I want to be focusing my time on, and allowing a managing director to manage the different departments, manage the different teams. So yeah, a bit of a realization moment for the two of us.
That's amazing. So how from making the decision that you were going to get this MD in, to actually having someone in, and then presumably all of you as most people's direct report maybe before that point. So like, how long did it take from, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to get an MD in, to actually having all of those team members now going to your new MD and allowing you to just focus on strategy and the things that you want to focus on? What was that time span?
It's still sort of ongoing, that there has to be like a lot of a big handover in terms of the different departments. So to sort of paint the picture a little bit, we have two agencies. So we have CSM Agency and Evolve Marketing, and they're a little bit nuanced in their own way. So CSM Agency focuses on all things performance. So either getting leads for businesses or selling products. Evolve Marketing is slightly different because it serves professional services as an industry. So they're not necessarily looking for leads. They're looking for brand perception. So these are like the big legal firms, accountancy firms, insurance brokers. Now, some are looking for leads, but for the most part, it's a perception play. So they're looking to grow their brands. Big construction companies and engineering companies we've worked with on that side. So for us, in terms of the timeline of actually trying to separate this out, we have different teams on both agencies. But where we've placed Sharnay, our managing director, is to sit in between both of our brands and basically manage the different departments on those brands. So Tig was more on the Evolve marketing side, and I was more on the CSM Agency side. So anyone who was a direct report to me, it was just trying to make sure that there was a transition there. But at the same time of hiring a managing director, we also hired a strategic director, and she came from VML, which is one of the big agencies in the world. And again, she's really taking on that overall holistic strategy perspective on behalf of a lot of our clients. So again, it's trying to make sure that they feel that we've onboarded them in the right way for clients and for the teams that we have. So we're not fully there yet. I'm still being dragged back in, but slowly but surely, we're moving into a place where we're just working on the business, which is really exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting. It's incredibly exciting. That's a dream position there. So, so you've got the two agencies. You have CSM and you have Evolve, and from my perspective, or perception of it, you're working with a number of different clients across those two agencies, right? But a very high caliber of client at the moment. And so, can you give me an idea or give everyone an idea of how long it's taken you to get to the point that you're in at the agency at the moment? And because presumably you started local business, or did you jump straight into the deep end? Did you have an unfair advantage? What did that look like? And what time span are we looking at for you to be from starting off to where you are now?
Yeah. Well, let's rewind the clock a little bit back to prior to setting up the agency, because I think it will give everyone a little bit of an understanding as to how we got into this in the first place. So I was living out in America. I was living in Austin, Texas, and I was working in a startup out there. I worked in Dell in Ireland as a graduate, and then I moved to Austin, Texas. There was a visa that we could get out there, and I worked in between the business development team and the marketing team. So I was kind of in between both roles at the time that I was there. And this startup, they were bringing in consultants every second week. So I was getting exposure to all these different consultants, from like top marketing consultants, top sales consultants, top business development consultants. And it was really eye-opening for me, because as a startup, I think we had 90 odd employees there at the time. I was just getting exposure to learning about this. I was very new in my career. I was just still figuring stuff out. But it was really interesting because these people were coming in and they had solved big problems before in SaaS. It was a SaaS company. They had solved problems before, and they were getting paid a huge amount of money as a consultant to come in and solve big problems. So then when I left Austin, Texas, I came back to Ireland, and I was so eager to do my own thing. Like, I genuinely would have done anything. I was that excited. And I met up with an old friend who I worked with in Dell at the time, and we set up a product business called Hidden Gent, and we sold gifts for men. So we were basically selling into retail stores. So we sold into Arnott's and Selfridges, which you would know in the UK. We sold into close to 100 stores across Ireland and the UK. And it was a funny story how we got there. Is like, we basically put all our money into stock. So we bought, I think it was 10,000 pairs of socks, like happy socks, the colourful socks, ties, handkerchiefs, and we had these nice little gift boxes that we put them in. I put in all my savings, which was, I think, $30,000 at the time, and my friend at the time did the same. We put all this stock in. We got samples in from China and everywhere else, and we landed on samples from Turkey at the time that were good. We brought all this stock in, and we had no real budget to actually go and sell it online. And I was like, that's
most brands, right?
I was like, this is probably not the way you should set up a business. Is like, buy tons of stock and leave no capital to go and actually sell it. So we were like, well, the only way we're going to sell this is to go wholesale. So it's just funny how the journey goes, because we were like, let's sell wholesale because we have no money. So it's just our time that's going into this. So we were door knocking. Like, we were literally going into retail stores with different boxes and like walking into the store with a gift box and be like, we have these products. Would you like to buy them? So I was 20, I would have been 22 at the time. So still pretty young. Like, this is 10 years ago now. Nice. But I was going in with these gift boxes. And then we built enough money to do our first trade show, which was called Showcase. It was in the RDS here in Dublin. And Arnott's, which is one of the big department stores here in Ireland, stumbled across our stand. It was looking pretty professional. My mother was helping, my girlfriend was helping, so we had it looking nice. But they placed an order from us, and that changed everything. It allowed us to build a bit of momentum. Why I'm telling you this story is I was never paying myself from Hidden Gent. Every bit of money that we made, we reinvested back in. So I was doing a bit of consultancy on the side. So the little nugget of knowledge that I learned from the consultants from living in Austin, Texas, was that they're just trading time for something that they figured out. Okay. It was a real eye-opening thing, because they were coming in, like, you'd have a HubSpot consultant as an example, and they were coming in and helping our marketing team to get the most out of HubSpot. So I was like, is there anything that I've learned on my journey from working in Dell, from working in America, that I could package up? And I went through Sam Oven's course at the time, consulting.com. I think you were part of that journey as well. But that gave me enough of a belief system, just a nugget of belief system, to say, okay, I'm still very young in the journey here, but could I just help people on B2B lead generation? Do I know enough to help people on B2B lead generation? And that's how my agency got started alongside Hidden Gent, because I was like, I need to pay the bills here somehow. I've invested all my money into this product business. Yeah. Could I do a little bit of consultancy on the side? And I remember signing my first client. It was a company called Smart Accountants. They were based in London. And all he wanted was help in terms of B2B lead generation. He was an accountant that worked with a lot of businesses and was like, I need help to set up a system around this. And he paid me £2,000 a month. But that was, I suppose, the start of my journey. It was actually more consultancy than an agency. I didn't even realize that this was an agency at that stage. I was like, I just want just a little bit of money just to help. So that was a long-winded way of explaining like how I got to that stage.
That's interesting, man. I didn't even know that. So what happened with the product business in the end?
It grew. It grew to a point where we had about 200,000 euros worth of stock in a warehouse. We were consistently selling into around 65 stores. We got into about 100, but consistently selling in repeat orders. And when COVID hit, everyone cancelled POs. And to say the business completely flipped on its head would be an understatement. We had moved into more selling direct to consumer and online. It was better margin. So we were reinvesting some of the wholesale earnings that we were getting into direct to consumer and through our own website. But my business partner at the time, who was a bit older than me, he had a kid on the way, he had a mortgage to pay, and he was just like, man, I can't do this. The business is gone. As soon as COVID hit, the business is gone. I'd built a bit more momentum at that stage. We were running Hidden Gent for 3.5 years. So it wasn't this wasn't like a little blip in the radar. It was very much a business. But to say I did not earn €1 out of that experience, but I learned a lot of experience. So I don't take anything away from it. But I never... It's funny, you hear people, even my friends at the time, you're in Arnott's, or my family members, you must be doing amazing. We didn't earn €1 from that business, but I learned so much from it. So I don't take anything away from it. But a product business is so hard to succeed in those early stages. And COVID would have, destroyed a lot of businesses, and it certainly took away mine. But I still look at it as a blessing in disguise, because I had built enough momentum. I think I had about, I had a handful of retainers at that time on the marketing side of things. Things had grown on that side of things. And that's where I teamed up with Ty Gyrey, who was the owner of Evolve Marketing. And that was 6 years, 6 years ago, to the day that we teamed up. So it was probably at that time I was still working with Tig when I was running Hidden Gent. But Hidden Gent had to be, I suppose, stopped at that point. I quickly realized like I haven't made any money for this, and it was my ego that was probably saying like, you can still do this, you can still sell products. So I still have a lot of socks if you want, if you want, or ties and handkerchiefs.
Awesome, that's amazing, man. And you can't quantify that wealth of value that you get, those lessons that you get from experiences like that. Like it's arguably more value than you would have got from getting that cash in the bank and what that would have done for you in that time, and it forced you to start the consulting, right? So then you start the consulting, you transition into an agency, and somewhere alongside that journey, you then launch a CSM agency as well. And I know you've now launched a creative agency as well. So I'm interested to know from your perspective, and this is a question I asked for lots of actually all established agencies that I know that are doing significant revenue have multiple agencies now because they've separated their offers or segmented their markets. And I find it a really interesting concept because lots of other agencies, and certainly small agencies, think that they are better off just stacking multiple services under one roof. And so I'd like to know from your perspective what made you then think, okay, I'm going to launch CSM now as a separate entity, and now also the creative agency as well. What was the thought?
Yeah, so originally the thought process around having separate brands, it came quite naturally because Tig, my business partner, he had set up Evolve Marketing, and it was doing quite well. It was in with a lot of professional service firms, so he was in with a lot of legal firms, accountancy firms, insurance brokers here in Ireland, and building a bit of a name for himself in the professional service space. So I was like, we definitely shouldn't take away from that. You've done absolutely amazing there. I, at this point, still with Hidden Gent alongside it, was serving a lot of B2B businesses because it was my background from Austin, Texas, was around B2B. So I was actually never really selling into e-commerce until we hired people who knew e-commerce. I still to this day wouldn't kind of back myself with direct to consumer marketing. Funnily enough, it's actually, I can speak about it fluently. I'd say I'm a generalist around that, but the people we've hired are really focused in on direct to consumer and e-commerce. My own skill set, if you'd call it, from living in America and from working in like Dell, was all B2B side of things, and setting up systems and structure there. So I suppose it happened quite naturally because CSM Agency was built on the basis that it was always going to serve standard B2B businesses like SaaS companies, and even like B2B manufacturing companies, which we've worked a lot with. And since we hired a lot of people to help out with both brands, they were coming in with a lot of knowledge around e-commerce, and they're saying, you have to offer this as a service. Like, you have to start, we need to start winning some more e-commerce businesses. So it was more them explaining their knowledge to me that gave me the confidence to go and sell it. So that's why those, I suppose the separation there was more from a marketing perspective, our own marketing, when we're putting ourselves out there to really, the perception of who we're attempting to work with. And how Untold Creative, which is our new creative agency, it's only launched in the last 6 months. How that has come to be is we brought on a guy called David Beakey, who is actually a close friend of mine. I lived with him in Austin, Texas as well, funnily enough. So we're bringing a lot of people who I lived with in America into the company. There's 4 from the company, from Austin, which is cool. And David had worked in a lot of big companies, but also agency, a big creative agency, and learned a lot on his journey around creative side of things. And he was very eager to go out on his own. And how we looked at it is saying, instead of going out on your own journey, would you have any interest in coming in with myself and Tig? We already have 2 reasonably established brands. We have capital and we have a bit of leverage. So would you come in and maybe set up a department within CSM Agency around that and start to build momentum there? So David pondered that because he was like, well, yeah, I don't have like a lead generation department. I don't have a sales department. I don't have operations. So you would be taking away a lot of heavy lifting for me. And all I can focus in on is what I do best, which is service delivery. So it was us pitching to David to say, would this be a better fit for you? Because we would love to have you on the team. There's already pre-established trust there. We know you as a friend. We know you're an incredibly hard worker. And we just want to build something as a collective.
Yeah.
So that was a huge domino for us, because that was off gut feel. But now that's actually the way we do things, is we find talent to build departments around who are already going to go out on their own journey anyway. But we're just bringing them in under our ecosystem. So David grew that department so big that it turned into its own agency, which is Untold Creative today. So for us, it's looking at a few things. If a department is being set up in one of our brands, does it serve our North Star? Like where we're going in the next 10 years as an ecosystem, does it serve that North Star? Is it margin rich? So is the actual service we're providing, does it have good margin? Because there's certain departments that don't have good margin. And is the leader someone who is very adaptive, can hire, can change quite quickly? Is there trust there? We've made a lot of mistakes along the way with setting up the wrong departments. But David has been an absolute blessing. It's beautiful having one of your friends on the team, but also someone who is billing like a sizable amount of money every month, and we have no real involvement in it whatsoever.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That to me is a complete asset there. So that's been amazing, and it actually came about. I would love to say to you that was like a real strategic move, but it was actually more on gut feel than anything. And it's now turned into more of a strategic play.
Some of those best decisions that you make are the ones that you make on gut feel, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
And isn't it just wonderful when you get to work with friends and it gets to work out? There's nothing worse than if you work with friends and it doesn't work out in the way that you want it to. But
you look at yourself and Joe as well, like it's
been amazing.
I think having a business owner having a business partner to me is been the biggest blessing, because I remember being on my own as a consultant, and how me and Ty got together in terms of joined forces was really this is a bit of a lonely road on our own, and you don't have anything to bounce things off. Now, I hear a lot of disaster stories from having a business owner, but I'm sure you'd say the exact same. It's so, when you have the same values, when you have the similar vision on things, and your work ethic is the same, and it's not one person is pushing forward and the other one isn't. There's nothing better. There genuinely is nothing better.
I had the same conversation with Lucas from Hamby Media yesterday. We were speaking about this exact thing, because Lucas just had sold a portion of his shares of his agency and to Ollie from Saw with us, and that his main motivator for doing that. Yes, it was nice having a bit of equity release and a bit of capital. But his main motivator for that was the fact that it was a lonely path on him on his own in the agency. And whilst he had this big team, he's still the top strategic guy. And it's like, as a business owner, when you don't have that, when you have those, when you just get excited about something, you need someone to message, and you can't always message somebody from the team and some of the things that you want to be able to say. And so you do then feel isolated in those scenarios. So I do think a business partner is I don't think for every single person, because I think some people can probably or naturally can run a business solo and do it incredibly well. But having those, and you can hire big strategic roles to kind of fill those boots somewhat, but it takes a long time to get to that position in the first place to be able to do that. And building out a business with a friend is just one of the most amazing things. Can you paint a picture of where you're at from a financial standpoint in the agency at the moment? You mentioned also your North Stars in 10 years. I'm interested to know are those North Stars financial? Are they? Is it team? What do you consider to be the pillar of what success looks like at the moment? So there's multifaceted there. Where are we at right now? Where are we going to go?
Yeah. So I'll speak on CSM Agency first, because that's the brand I'm the head of, right? So CSM Agency has grown incredibly fast since we started out, and since we've had a team, since we actually deployed a proper team. So we took on, and the business model completely flipped on its head. So I'll kind of rewind to 2022. Okay, so in 2022, in November 2022, we billed €425,000 in 1 month. It was November 2022.
Nice.
And in that month, we had to like literally change everything in the business because we were building, like, our business model was based on, we would have around 70 grand in retainer value, but the rest was all project work. So we're winning big website projects, big branding projects. And it got to a point where our team were feeling so overwhelmed because they were like, there's such inconsistency with what we're doing here. So on paper, someone says, you build in November 2022, you built 425,000. Geez, you must be absolutely killing it. And I want to give you the honest answer to that. That actually, that made our whole team so overwhelmed because it was built in, so I want to be clear, that was built in mainly project work. Okay. So that means like 10 massive website projects, team working over hours, us trying to combat and hire freelancers and consultants just to come in and actually deliver on this work because we had sold it. Like, you know, we had sold it, but like we didn't even have the infrastructure and the team to actually support that. So that was like a big realization moment for us, is like, okay, we've obviously done well to be able to even get to a point where we're growing that fast, but it's actually, we're losing staff. Like, people are getting so overwhelmed that we're billing that type of figure. And this isn't a sellable asset. We're not building enterprise value here. And the reason we're not building enterprise value is like, these are one-off projects and we're not shifting that brand into a retainer after. For whatever reason, it wasn't materializing into a retainer after. They had their own in-house team, or there was always some sort of reason, even though we were desperately trying to say, we built the website, is there any chance we can take over on paid media or PR or whatever it was? It just wasn't happening for us. So then it was more towards January 2023, myself and Ty sat down with an external consultant, and we were like, we feel like we're building this momentum and we get to this stage where we're invoicing some sizable figures, but then the whole team get overwhelmed and it's just like this complete crash. So what we decided to do is just completely double down on MRR and just focus in on retainers and nothing else. So just cut out all project work altogether. And that has just been slowly growing for CSM. So CSM now is at around 150,000 per month, which is great because there's a level of consistency. And we've separated Untold Creative, which is mainly all project work. So Untold Creative still does UX design, it still does web development, it does branding projects. We're starting to deploy a larger videography team there as well. So it's given that separation because the businesses have to be separated in that way, because the teams are like, hang on a minute here, I'm taking on, 7 clients that are consistent, but now you've just, and that's my capacity, but now you've just dumped this big project on top of me as well. So it's a roundabout way of saying, like, the business model has very much shifted because of us just not really having good structure there as to like, how are we operationally running this? We were causing ourselves a lot more problems by closing work just because we had an inability to say no. We were like, okay, we can close this because the deal has come our way. And I just want to, again, give people a little bit of context as to like, how are we landing that amount of deal flow? Yeah. So we were white labeled in Ireland by one of the largest accountancy firms in the world. Okay. Yeah. I'm not going to name their name, but they're one of the largest accountancy firms. So they white labeled our agency. Okay. Right. So what that means, to just give a little bit of context, is like, they have a technology department, and they basically, it was run by a guy here in Dublin who knew of us, and he said, well, I want to start billing for more agency services. They had all the connections, so they were already in the door with all the biggest companies here in Ireland and more on a global perspective. But he was getting us to build websites. So let's say a website project was 50 grand. Yeah. He would add on around 30 to 40% margin on top of that and do absolutely nothing.
Right.
So we were just getting this consistent flow of projects, like consistent flow, and it was coming and coming. But it would get to a point where they were in control of the relationship because we were white labeled underneath them. And yeah, it's just, it was another big epiphany moment, is like, we're providing the value of a 50 grand website project. The customer is seeing what is perceived as a 70 grand or 80 grand in some cases website project. And then it's nearly backfiring slightly because they're like, hang on a minute, this doesn't look like an 80 grand project to me, but it's the margin that this large accountancy firm was adding on. Like, this would be...
They're really getting the cream, aren't they?
Yeah. And, but I, again, don't take anything away from that, because that was a complete stroke of luck. That was being in the right place at the right time and meeting the right people to say, oh, we could use your agency because we have all of these customers already. They're already part of our accountancy firm. And we were doing reasonably good numbers at this point. Would you guys do that? We'll just deploy you and we'll add margin on top. And that's the way they were thinking. So I don't take anything away from the relationship, but it was very much like, you do the work, we'll do absolutely nothing. And we were like, okay, well, this isn't really the way we want to do things. But just to give people a bit of context, is like, how do you get to 420? Because I still, that was the one moment for me where I was like, oh, this is an actual business. Like, we are actually making big money here. Up until that point, like, it was still, because that was a huge spike, by the way, as well. Like, we were typically billing on a month around 100k. That was a massive spike for us. So yeah, it's still, now things have separated. We learned a lot from that, and that's why we've deployed different agencies to give everyone that operational structure that they deserve. Like, you can't really just dump that on staff. Where you say, well, we just got all these projects come in, someone has to deliver on it. You know, it's just, it was a very unfair way of running it, but we didn't know anything else. We were just like, we're getting this work, we have to do it. Because we were still so young in the journey. I still feel, we're 6 years in, I still feel we're so young in the journey. And sometimes it's the inability to say no, because you still come from that level of hustle at the start. You're just like, I was taking anything. I would have taken anything when I came back from America. I was like, I just want to help someone and see if I can offer some value.
I say this all the time. It's like, in the early stages, we're so opportunity scarce, and the job is like, just give me an abundance of opportunity. You're just trying to find it any way you can. You say yes as many times as possible, and then you hit a certain level of scale, and it's all about turning that completely on its head and learning how to turn away opportunity. And that's so counterintuitive to everything we've been doing over the course of years to get ourselves in the position we're in. So it's understandable why we did the same thing. We hit a certain level of scale in the agency in 2022 in January, and things just imploded. Like, team struggled, fulfillment struggled, churn went up, we lost a bunch of clients, we had huge retainers, and it was a mess. But it forces you to have like a complete U-turn in the business, which is what we need sometimes, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And like, I think for agencies, like, I'm very happy, like you asked the question previous around like your North Star. I'm very happy to be a boutique agency. Like, I don't particularly want to grow into, 50, 100 staff. I'm very content to stay at a certain level, because I think agencies are the best, from being in a product business, I think they are the best business to generate steady cash flow. And like, I mean, I feel like that was the luckiest thing that we did, because it was a stroke of luck to say, oh, we'll do it. Bearing in mind, I was like, I'll do a bit of consultancy. I learned a bit from living in America. Maybe that's enough knowledge to help smart accountants in London. Like, that my first ever account. Shout out to Trevor. But for me, like, when you look at the North Star, I just look at CSM Agency. If it can bill 150 grand per month consistently every year with the accounts that it has, I am very happy with that. If Evolve Marketing can do similar numbers and sustain that, again, I'm very happy with that. And then Untold Creative, which is new, we're like, again, we're 3 months in, but I think with creative work, you could probably get to around 2 million. Like, that's the goals that like we're kind of looking to be hitting. So by keeping them separated and deploying the right teams around each of these brands, for us, it's like, they don't need to scale any more than that. It's actually, they're perfect. They're doing perfectly fine because we're just adding more complexity. It actually gets less margin the more you try to scale it. The hiring aspect of things just gets messy.
I couldn't agree more. I think the agency business model is a beautiful business model up to a certain limit. And then it just becomes an opportunity magnet because we're speaking to so many great people. We're having so many great conversations. We're meeting so many great entrepreneurs. And then if you as an entrepreneur, if you want to then maintain at that point, and you absolutely can, you can live an incredible life at that level. But if you do want to then unlock the next level of business, whether that's jumping into a software product, whether that's jumping into personal consulting, whether that is starting a product or whatever that looks like, there's so much opportunity around you because of the credibility and the value that you've been providing to so many other people. And so I think maintaining at a level where you have a very positive cash influx into your every month, every year, whatever way you're sorting your finances. But if you maintain at a certain respectable level, and then you seek opportunity elsewhere, I think there's a sweet spot there. We certainly hit like that 2022, and we're just actually going to maintain, and we've maintained for a very long time now, very limited amount of scale, and it's such a better business to run. You just optimize and you perfect it, and you drop the margins get better, and the team gets better, and it gets more enjoyable, and then you're kind of seeking opportunity elsewhere. And I think, I'm yet to speak to an agency owner who's operating beyond $500,000 a month that's like actually really happy and content with the business itself, because it gets very messy.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree with that more. And one thing you said to me last year, and it's stuck with me, is like, I think I was voice noting you over something, and you said, I'm just planting trees, man. I'm just planting trees. And I don't know why it stood with me, right? But it goes back to like building enterprise value in what you're doing, okay? And I look at the way you've set up your infrastructure, and it's amazing seeing what you've built around not only your own personal brand, but like the huge educational piece of the work that you do with the academy and everything else. But I just tell you why that little nugget stood with me, because like the planting trees side of things, I'm like, are we building an asset here, or are we just trying to get cash in the door, or are we building something that we can actually sell? Because it goes back to like those big domino moves that you make. I look at like CSM Agency and Evolve Marketing, and like, I don't want to discredit them. It's been an absolute amazing journey, and I've loved every bit of it, and I still feel that those agencies will go on to do great things. Do I see myself being as much in the weeds in 10 years from now? Hopefully not. I would like to ideally think that I could maybe set up some technology in the background, something that I could actually sell, because I've spoken to a lot of people around selling an agency, and it's really interesting getting the perspective from different people as to how much of your ducks in a row you have to get in order to actually sell at a large multiple. But when you tie technology and when you tie infrastructure into it, that's when an investor looks, well, I can 100x this. You can't 100x someone's time. We're all like, the one commodity being time is so scarce. We've all got a certain amount of hours in our day. Our team has a certain amount of hours in the day, meaning it goes back to that point. It's a hard one to scale past. I would argue 1.52 million. I applaud agency owners who scale past that. I'm really like, I'm in awe of the agency owners that are scaling past those numbers. In my mind, it's like it has to be a new agency, or has to be a new. That's the way my vision has been about it. Like,
I think it has to be like beyond that point. I think it has to be a very simple, repeatable process. I think it needs to be a very specific service to a very specific industry, and it has to be as repeatable as possible. I think if there's in any way a level of a multitude of different, and this is the way I've seen, because I know agencies that do over $500,000 a month, and what I notice in those agencies is they are extremely specific and extremely specialized. if there's any kind of not complexity, but it is complexity, but if there's any like variety across the client base and variety across the service, I think that's when it gets really uncomfortable beyond like that 200k point. But also those kind of agencies like yours and like mine, we deliver the best service because it's holistic for the client, and then we build the better relationship. So it's always that battle between like what is factually going to be the most scalable model, and then what is going to be the most enjoyable, or what we feel is the most right thing to do based on what is right for the client, and so on. But I think it has to be as repeatable as possible to be able to get past a point into scale.
No, couldn't agree more. And even looking at, you know, the work we've done together and the help that your team have given mine around, you know, the importance of structure, the importance of having the right systems, the right statements of work, the right systems and frameworks and toolkits that, you know, it all comes back to that level of organization. And I think, you know, that's something that you guys are really dialed in on. And I think it's the talent that we're hiring at the moment. They're taking infrastructure from VML, from Group M, from some of the big agencies that we've hired from and headhunted from. And the way they run the ship is very different to the way I ran the ship, like, you know, because I didn't really, you don't know what you don't know. So again, I think that's just been such an eye opener, is making sure that a statement, not a statement, an SOP, a standard operating procedure in a business will evolve over time. It will naturally just keep getting better and getting better. But that's when you're really dialed in.
But I think like agencies should be doing that kind of thing, should be documenting everything from day one. It wasn't until it was when we hosted our first mastermind, second in Tulum, and Ollie from SOAR with us was there, and he showed us his entire SOP library. And at that time, he had about 150 SOPs. And I remember looking at it thinking like, oh shit. It was like the penny dropped. I was like, is this what we should have been doing the whole time? Because we've got all these processes, I'm seeing all the names of them. These are all things that we do, but we're not documenting and repeating them and so on. And then I had this thought, like when I came away from that, and I had this thought pattern. I was like, if you really want to get an agency to be sellable and to be attractive to be sellable, it needs to be documented like a franchise. It needs to be treated like a franchise in that sense. And for context, I mean, you could sell the business to someone, they could pick it up and they could read a bunch of documents, and then in theory they could pick up as much of it as they needed to, and because they know your exact way of doing things. That's why franchises document everything, because they want to protect that brand that they've built. They want to protect their process. And so if you adopt that same mentality with your business or with your agency, like it benefits every single level. So your team, your new hires, your enterprise value. And so I think all agencies have a duty to document on that rigorous level. And that's why in what we're working together in Elite, why it's been so important to create that mass library of resources and SOPs that other agencies can just take from us building over years and years and years. And that is intellectual property that just propels you ahead of everyone else who hires a media buyer or gets someone in the sales team, and they have to train these people up through their own manual processes and spend hours on calls and so on. And I think that's it's always ironing out those inefficiencies, isn't it? That's something that we've spoken a lot about.
100%. Yeah, it's a blueprint. It's the confidence to say we are making the right decisions here as a team, that we're deploying the right systems for this client or deploying the right systems for our own business to get to the next stage. So couldn't agree with that more.
Yeah, man. It's interesting because I've obviously known you a long time now, and we've done a great deal of work together, and you guys have built an incredible agency. And when creating this new project that we've been working on together, I hand selected a bunch of people that I thought these will be just exceptional people that can bring in individual and unique thoughts to the project. And so I reached out to you not too long ago and said, would you be interested in coming in and doing some mentorship? And I'd love to know from your perspective because obviously you're an incredibly busy guy. You're running 3 agencies now. I'd love to know from your perspective what interested you and drew you to saying, yes, I would love to mentor other agencies. I would like to help other people out on their stage of growth as well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, like for me, I do get my kicks off this. For me, it's there's nothing better than actually helping someone else on the journey as well. Like I would say I go out of my way to help friends and people in my network to sit down with them and have a coffee. Of like the amount of people I I couldn't count on both hands that I've sat down with who have said, look, I'm looking to do my own thing. Like, is there any chance you could give me half an hour of your time or an hour of your time? It's something that I do genuinely enjoy, because I feel like for everyone, there is always a possibility of going out on your own. You just have to actually just get that little bit of confidence. And that's I suppose where I would probably say Sam Ovens was my confidence to initially go out. And that was, again, going back, that is 10 years ago now to the day. And that was my little nugget of confidence. So I've always indirectly enjoyed doing it, like with the knowledge I know, and I still think by all means I have not got this figured out, but I've figured out enough to help someone to at least get started. So for me, that was a big thing. With the mentoring side of things, I've indirectly done a lot of mentoring. So like we ran a program here in Ireland for the government called the Road to Recovery. So during the time of the pandemic, it was like the second year or whatever, the government set up a program to help business owners to move their business online, and 1,200 businesses in Ireland went through it. It was sponsored by IBEC, the Small Firms Associations, Enterprise Ireland, so a lot of the big government bodies here. And I ran the digital pillar. So like my responsibility was to set up workshops and run master classes. And you might have like 30, 40 businesses joining a workshop, and I would be bringing them through like how to improve on the customer experience online, or how to go about setting up your first website. And that to me was a massive learning. And I just really enjoyed it. I felt like I was in flow at that point. And I mean, outside of that, I've loved the relationship that I've built with you and the team, and really believe in the way you do things. There's a lot of gurus out there, but you guys actually have done amazing things with your agency. And like I've seen it firsthand. I've met your team firsthand. I think there's a lot of trust there. And yeah, it's like, I don't say this lightly, but like I've paid for a lot of masterminds. I've paid for a lot of like courses and stuff like that. And a lot of these people just sell the course. They've never actually gone and done it. But you guys sell what you've actually, like you do what you preach. You know what I mean? You've actually built an amazing agency. So for me, it was like, that was a big thing, is like, I can stand behind Jordan, and I've seen the vision for what you guys are building out. It's very much big picture and North Star, and I felt it aligned really well, and it aligned quite well in the timing of my journey. And again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier around like building a collective. I think in any business, when you form a collective of like-minded people who have a similar vision, who have just similar values, and are like, let's go and fucking do something cool here together, and let's do it with the tenacity and the same mindset that we have doing our own businesses, we're going to build something a lot bigger as a group than we would on our own. And I think that's always the lens that I'll look down, is like, I contribute a lot of my success to the people I have around me. It's like, I know that, I'm reasonably good at some things, but it's the people that, I've surrounded myself around that have really helped with that. So hope that answers the question.
Absolutely, man. It's a lovely way of answering the question. And it's just so exciting to get involved in it. And it is really just bringing together collective minds who are actually doing the thing. And that's something that at least the education space desperately cries out for at the moment, is more people doing the thing that they're talking about doing. So one golden bit of advice for people then, I would love to know, and I'm sure everyone else would, what you think the secret is to building an agency. Let's say you've already got yourself off the ground. What do you think the key is, or the secret is, to getting to 100K a month?
So getting to 100K a month is your ability to have the right people around you. So it's your ability to understand where you're really good at. Where can, because like all on the journey, you're going to start small and you're going to get shiny object syndrome. You're going to see the other agencies that are better than you and more established than you, and you're going to get distracted. Okay. Yeah. So it's trying to cut out all the different distractions of Johnny up the road there is selling to manufacturing. So I'm changing my niche. I'm changing my, it probably, I don't know how many times people
all the time, man.
But like, it's trying to have pure focus, cut out all distractions, say, what are we fucking good at? Like, do we have any case studies here? Is there any client that we have served and they've really believed in us? And could we build a bit of momentum and get could we win the next client of that particular business? I think it is a level of, a lot of people have said to me, like, over the years, niching down. And I think in the early stages, niching down is so important. And, I look at Evolve Marketing. Evolve Marketing started with just law firms, no one else but just law firms. Now it serves professional services. So I do believe that the model can expand. And, Evolve Marketing went into accountancy and into insurance and now into engineering and construction. Because the business model is actually the same and the way you serve those clients, there's a lot of similarity there. But I think for anyone scaling to 100K, there's a few kind of pillars that I would be suggesting. Would be like pillar 1, really hone in on cutting out all distractions, all shiny object syndrome of like what everyone else is doing. Focus in on you. Where is your strong suit? Where can you offer most value? That is the most important thing. And like, do a positioning exercise with yourself. Do an unfair advantage exercise with yourself. Like, what separates you as a boutique agency? Because you are small if you're below 100K. So, and that's okay. It's okay to be small. But perception is everything. So if you can't articulate what makes you different, what gives you an unfair advantage, you're never going to get to pillar 2. So pillar 1 is all about you. It's understanding and truly making sure you can distinguish who you are in the market. You have a tiny blip of market share in the grand scheme of things. So you're just either stealing someone else's market share who's more established than you, or you're separating yourself in a blue ocean slightly. Okay. So by doing that is obviously niching down on the services. I think the next thing, and what served me, is the level of consultancy. How we sell is through consultancy. Okay. So like all I've known is bringing consultants into businesses. Okay. So I thought everyone was doing this, but then when I met your team and I met all the other agency owners that were turning 100K, they're like, we're not doing that, man. Like, this is pretty.
Yeah, but loved it.
Yeah. And I was like, oh shit, I thought everyone was doing this. But so it kind of goes back to that story around we're living in America and living in Austin. I was getting exposure to all these consultants and like, oh, these people have got a lot of shit figured out in what they do. They specialize in something. And everyone was listening. Like whenever a consultant came in and we had a boardroom meeting, it was, all eyes on them. And it was great. I learned a lot from that. And then by me doing a bit of consultancy when I came back, in the little knowledge that I knew, I was like, well, there's obviously some other smart people who are freelancers and self-employed who might be interested in coming in on a deal with me. So I think it shifts into pillar number 2, which is the people you surround yourself around. Okay. If you have an inability to not know what value you can give someone, you better find someone who can give value and you handle the sales and allow that consultant to handle the value. And I can't drill down this enough, because this was me. Like, I had a small skill set in setting up systems for B2B businesses, but I by no means had it all figured out. But I found consultants who were shit hot at actually delivering on projects, and I was selling them. So I've always sold like consultants into businesses, and then I have delivery teams as well. So what I mean by a consultant is like a strategist. It's a big picture thinker. Okay. Like, so I've worked with everyone from like Josh Goldsmith, who was the growth director behind Huel in London, from Vinny O'Brien, who set up the enterprise division in eBay. Like, these guys have solved massive problems like in businesses and done some amazing things on their career. And then they've gone out self-employed. So I indirectly acknowledged that and said like, okay, these people are good. I have some people in my network from living in America, from working in Dell, who have gone out on their own. Could I bring them in to some of these sales calls and even consultancy sessions to see could we upsell on something a little bit bigger here? And then I can build the implementation team around that. So it's an indirect way of saying like, pillar number 2 is surrounding yourself around the right people who can offer the value, whatever that value is. If you don't have the value yourself, find the people who can offer the value. Yeah. What problems are you solving? Pillar number 3 is like, how do you sell? Like if you can't dial in selling and you don't have a system around your sales, I mean, you're never going to get to 100K.
Yeah.
Probably before pillar number 3 is lead gen. Like you need to have the right system in place to build your pipeline.
What's worked the best for you as far as
it's been a mixed bag. Like in the early stages, to get it to 100K, you could just do pure cold outbound.
Yeah.
I know everyone says that, but like I got to 100K through cold outbound.
I believe that to be true, definitely.
You 100% can get there, but you have to do it in the right manner.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit of ads past 50K. But not necessary, but a little supplementation helps.
Yeah. Cold outbound can be in many different forms, okay? So cold outbound can be direct to the source, but it can also be forming partnerships. So you could and this is the thing about cold outbound is like cold outbound doesn't necessarily just have to be to the customer. We do cold outbound campaigns to meet new consultants.
Yeah.
We do cold outbound campaigns to partner with Triple Whale, to partner with Conjura, cold outbound can be anything and everything. It's your ability to form the connection. So it's what's going to give you leverage in the deal. It's all about leverage. So like if you feel you have enough leverage to go direct to the source, which is like if I'm reaching out to if I'm reaching out to Huel, let's say, and I want to reach out to their marketing director, do I have enough leverage to reach out to the marketing director, and can I actually solve a problem for that person?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But would I have more leverage if I came to them with someone who has solved a very similar problem in another equivalent of Huel in America? Mm-hmm. Is that going to give me more leverage in the relationship? Is by me connecting with Triple Whale as a partner of theirs and reaching out with that as well to help them with their attribution, is that going to give me more leverage? So go to the deal with as much leverage as you can. And that's the way we've done it from the start. So I don't know any different. That's always the way we've approached cold outbound or like building connections.
I think it's so fascinating because it solves the single biggest problem that all agencies pre 100K face. And I say the single biggest, but one of the biggest, and it's like the subconscious problem. And it's authority and a lack of. And so it's a transfer of authority by associating yourself with these individuals. And that's what's getting the sell. Yeah. It's the transfer of their authority. And it also gets rid of any little doubt or insecurity that you have around closing that client as well, because you must have imposter syndrome on signing some of these huge clients in the early stages, right? And you get someone else on there and you're standing in their shadow somewhat, and then you have to fill the boots yourself and make sure you actually do the damn thing. But it solves a huge problem for agencies.
Yeah. You're selling the people, you're selling the experience of the people, and have they solved this problem before? It goes back to the way me and you were chatting about hiring. Like we're both in a hiring stage at the moment, your company and our company. And I was saying to you is like the lens I look at it through is like, when you're hiring that person, have they done it before? It's the same with when someone takes on an agency. They're like, we're outsourcing this because we have the inability to solve for it in-house. So that's why we've decided to outsource. Does the company that we're outsourcing to, have they solved this before for other companies? That's the lens they're looking at it from. So you have to put yourself in their shoes and say like, let's make their decision easier for them by giving them like a full picture of the team that we could potentially deploy within their company. That's all they want is reassurance. They're just like, can you do this for me? Can you get me from A to B? And if you give them enough reassurance to say, well, yeah, I've got Vinny O'Brien who set up the enterprise division in eBay, and you're looking to do something very similar in your business, we can solve for that. they want you thinking big. And like the way we've broken it up is like we have a huge amount of strategists who are not on my books. So like they're not on our payroll, but they have day rates. So like they'll come in and we'll bring them into sales calls. We'll bring them into, putting together a holistic strategy for a business, and we'll pay them their day rate. But then we have a team to implement on that. So like, I find like, and this is only my own journey, but marketing directors just want to make the right decision so that their leadership team don't grill them. Okay, they want to make the right, because when a business is turning over 10 million a year, a marketing director, it's their ability to make the right decisions. Okay, so they want the right strategist, and I mean this so importantly, it's like the right strategist to help them to make that decision. The implementation work is actually the easy part, like the setting up of the campaigns. And, if you have good SOPs in place and you have good structure around there, that's the easy part. The hard part is making this decision as to, is it going to be paid media? Is it going to be PR? Is it going to be affiliates? Like there's so many ways to scale a business. It's not all just running meta ads. Do you know what I mean? There's so many ways to grow a business. You have to look at it holistically, but a strategist is going to do that. Once the strategist maps out the roadmap, what's going to get you from A to B, then the implementation team comes. So for me, we've always led with strategy and consultancy first. I think that's the best way to sell, is solving those bigger macro problems with a marketing director. That's where you build that trust. And that's where I will always say, like, be the first person to say I haven't got it all figured out. I would say I'd probably support on that call more from a commercial and sales perspective, but I would bring a consultant on that call with me to solve for the logic behind the decision making of why they should spend their money on X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Because they just want reassurances to, like, is my money spent wisely on the resources that you're deploying?
Do you think this concept can be applied to agencies that work with much smaller businesses? So we're talking like not even mid-sized businesses, your small kind of sub 100K a month revenue companies. And if so, how?
Yeah, I do. Like, I mean, we did a lot of that as well. Like when I like first started, I was like, what is the one skill that I have? That, because you start on your own, okay? Like most journeys, we'll start on our own, and then you might team up with someone, or you might hire someone, or whatever the case may be. But you have your own one skill set. But it's all about trying to recognize: is there anyone in my network who I've met at like previously worked with, or whatever the case may be, that could also help with solving something, and teaming up with them. So I think in a roundabout way, you might not be working with the likes of Vinny O'Brien and Josh Goldsmith and people that, like, from the get-go, but you might find someone who could have a skill set that they've solved a problem for and say, look, I'll bring you in and I could pay you a day rate or an hourly rate, and maybe you could come on to the sales call with me and help me in terms of mapping out a strategy. I definitely think there's an angle there.
Maybe like an industry leader, a non-competing agency, for example, or someone in the space that you're trying to acquire clients from, an authority there. So
yeah,
it's just at the end of the day, it's just relationships, and this is one thing that I've been talking about a lot recently. Is outreach for strategic partnerships is absolutely massive, and I think it's something that lots of people miss out on. And also attendance of events. I think events can be exceptional places to meet these people as well. And even just local events when you're just starting out. And when I say just starting out, I'm still talking pre-50K a month, pre-100K a month revenue. I think it could be invaluable. Man, we can get stuck into this for a very long time, but I know we've got a few other things to do. So this has been incredible.
Yeah, really
appreciate it, Roy.
Really enjoyed it.
Awesome, man.
Cheers, bud.